So this video is going to be about if loops or if statements in general. And I really want to stress the importance of, or the distinction between if, else if, and else, and what they imply when you use them. And I think the best way to do this is to pick a very, very general thing to test. And the most general thing I can think of is whether or not a value is equal to a certain number. So let's say that I say x is equal to 3. And I want to see if x equals 3, display it's equal to 3. And I can end it there if I want. See, I'll see. Let me clear that. That was from the previous video I just made. That will also be uploaded to Canvas if it hasn't been already. So if we test this, it says it's equal to 3. We're testing a very, very specific case here. And note that we just have if and end. I don't have anything else inside. This is good enough. If I were to change this to something else, let's say I change 400, some number that has nothing to do with it, and I run it, nothing happens. Here, my workspace. I run this, x is 400, nothing happens because of the fact that we're not testing for that, and we don't say what happens if it's not equal to 3. And remember that this type of operation here spits out a number. So in this case, I made x equal to 3. If I write x equals to 3 down here, what do you think I'm going to get in the command window if I click enter? And I could say it out loud enough for your roommates to hear. Brett said it's going to output a 1 because of the fact that it's true. So in general, this will be a Boolean operator that spits out a 1 or a 0. In this case, where I have it equal to 3, it spits out a 1. If it sees a 1, that means it's true. We can confirm that just by writing this. If I change this to a random number, it's not testing for the number. It's just looking at the 1, and it'll keep saying that no matter what that number is, because of the fact I'm not testing anything. I just said it's true all the time. So x equals 3, we're going to check that. Now, if I want to check a very specific other number, maybe I want to check if it's equal to 4, I cannot write if again. It gets angry. But what I could write is else if. Because this is telling the computer, okay, if it's not equal to 3, because if it was, this will display. If it's not equal to 3, go to the next thing and check, is it equal to 4? And I can do this an infinite amount of times. So I can do this, we'll now display 5. I'm just getting lazy now. Else if x equals 6, display 6, whatever. I can do this, x is equal to 100. I don't know, whatever you can think of, I can do that. So if I'm going to write this in comments, if and else if checks specific conditions, where if is the first condition and else if is every specific condition afterwards. So the first thing we do is check if x is 3. That's the first condition. We use if to start that. If that's not true, we come to else if and check this other very specific condition. That's not true. We check the next one. That's a very specific condition. That's a very specific condition. That's a very specific condition. So else ifs always need a number here, or not another, a condition there to check. Because if that condition isn't present, then that doesn't make any sense with the word else if. Else if needs to check something specific. So again, if I were to run this, let's say I make it equal to 5 and run. Oops, what did I do wrong? Oh, I forgot the second equal sign. I did that in the last video too. Crazy. So run, we're outputting 5 because that's what I told it to. 5 is the number. I don't know. I'm just writing things here to show that I'm not printing X, just to show that I'm displaying something different. So if I run that, 5 is a number, okay? If I change it to 6, 6 is a number. If I change it to 100, 100 is a number. Cool. It is checking all these specific cases. But again, if I choose a number that is not one of those, 7, whatever, nothing happens. because of the fact that I'm not meeting the specific conditions that are set up. I only run these points of code if those conditions are true. So all these specific conditions are spitting out a 1 or a 0. If they were all 0, which they are in this case because all these conditions are false, it's not equal to this random number, then this doesn't happen, 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 and that's it. There's nothing will happen. So the way to account for every other single case that's possible, every number we haven't discussed, 1, 2, we did 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all the numbers that were not specified in the other things, that is what goes under else. This is every other possible number that hasn't been checked yet. Display random number. So in this case, I have this random number. It's not 3, it's not 4, it's not 5, not 6, not 100. Else means in the case that none of the above conditions worked, display that. So if I run this, random number, because of the fact it's not meeting those conditions. If I do 100, cool, I'll do 100 number. As soon as I change it to 101, that's considered a random number because it is not meeting the specific conditions of the if statements. So just to write that at the bottom, else is used to check every other possible condition. This is basically the equivalent of false, because everything else that's been tested would run if they were true. If x is 3 and that's true, if I make this 3, this would be true. Okay, we would display that and that'd be the end of the code. If every one of these is not true, that means that we were basically looking at a case of our whole thing being false, essentially. That might have been a little bit weirdly worded. Maybe I'll delete this because I didn't like it. But the thing to remember is that this is everything else, every other possible case. And it has to be in this order. Because if is the first condition, if you only have one condition, you can delete all the else ifs. That's not a problem. I can do this if I want. If I run this, it'll be 3. As soon as I make it something else, it's a random number that's not 3. This is checking the specific case of it being equal to 3. Every other possible number goes in else. If I included else if, that's going to check for a very specific number or a very specific case, which is 4. In this case, it was true. But as soon as I do something else that was not already talked about, it is random. I feel like I'm repeating the same things here because this point is so important. And just to kind of really emphasize something, only one of these things will run. And as I talked about in the other video, and what we talked about in class and in the note set, it will run in the order that it appears if it's true. So just as another example, say that y is equal to 6 if y is greater than 0. We'll do that first. Let's say display it's positive. That's the specific case I'm checking. If it's greater than 0, I can do another case that's specific. And else would be, everything else that we haven't touched on. In this case, only one thing will be tested. So I'll make a new section here. It happens to say it's positive because of the fact it sees this first. If we type in negative something, oops, I didn't run the code. If we type in negative something here, sorry, it's considered everything else because it's not positive. It fails this condition. It's not equal to 6. It fails this condition. It goes under the everything else category because it did not meet these specific conditions that were pre-specified. I make it 6. We already tested that. Maybe I'll make this negative 6 just to prove a point. I do negative 6. Now the second one will run because the first one wasn't true. It goes to the second one, and then you don't even do anything else below it. You only do the one that is the first to be true. Okay, I hope that this helps. Please, please, please come talk to me if you have issues with this concept, and we can work on it in person if you need to. Okay, thanks, guys.